Hey guys, welcome to Through the Bible Verse by Verse, a plain and simple study through the entire Bible, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse. We are currently in Genesis chapter 42 and try to get to 43 today. We're kind of now, Joseph has been exalted, and this is all because of God's plan. And we're going to see in the chapter how this was later in the chapter one of the greatest statements that Joseph made. But his brothers hated him and wanted to kill him, and then instead of that, they sell him as a slave. He's exalted as a slave, which he never forgot. He's exalted as a slave. He prospered as a slave, but is falsely accused of rape. Then he's jailed. In jail, he prospers as a prisoner, the head prisoner. But all of this was God's plan. We're going to see later that this was all God's plan to save the nation of Israel. All of this was to save the nation of Israel. And God used Joseph to do that. So now God gives Pharaoh a warning dream that a severe famine throughout the entire earth is coming. That would affect everything, and severe drought. And it is not only will Israel be saved, but Egypt will be saved and prosper. We'll get to that later. But that the world itself, the nations around will be saved, because they will eventually come to buy food from Egypt. But all of this was for one purpose: to save Israel. Others profit and benefit from that. But God's plan was to save Israel. Now, so now what's going to happen is Joseph's brothers' past is getting ready to catch up to them. But it's a very interesting statement that I think something that's going to be telling from them, that I think it's going to be very, very extremely interesting. All right, so let's bring up. All right, chapter 42, and now, so far as a timeline, remember Joseph was 17 when he went into Israel. He spent 13 years in bondage. At the age of 30, he begins his reign in Egypt. So now what we see is 7 years have passed. So now Joseph is 37, and there's still another 7 years to go. Now the first 7 years, actually Joseph's probably older than that, but I think he's probably more like 39 at this time here as we enter into this, because the 7 years of plenty had happened, and now we're going into the 7 years of drought. And I believe it's 2 years at this point. 2 years, and Joseph now has been feeding the nations. Other nations have been coming to buy gain, and we're going to see this in a moment here, but first and foremost, he is ruler over Egypt, so he's taking care of Egypt. But he's stored up so much grain that he's going to actually save the world. Okay, so chapter 42, verse 1. He says, when Jacob learned. Now remember, so we flash back. Joseph is doing his thing. He's ruler. He's reigning. Now all of a sudden, right? We flash back to Jacob. And when Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you keep looking at each other? Listen," he went on, "I've heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us so that we will live and not die." Now, obviously, coming up, he will not have to buy, but I'm jumping ahead, right? So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he thought something might happen to him. It will, but not as Joseph thought. Verse 5, the sons of Israel were among those who came to buy grain, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Joseph was in charge of the country. He sold grain to all his people. His brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the ground. And when Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke harshly to him. Now you may go, well, why didn't his brothers recognize Joseph? But remember, Joseph is dressed like an Egyptian, all of the garb of the Egyptians. Have you ever seen any kind of pictures of how they portrayed the Egyptians? And also remember this, that he didn't have a beard. He's shaven. He's probably got makeup on and all kinds of, again, just dressed like an Egyptian. And then he's going to speak to them as an Egyptian through an interpreter. He is also, remember his brothers are not expecting to see his brother in Egypt, right? They sold Joseph to Ishmaelites, and the Ishmaelites sold him to Egypt. And certainly they would not expect to see Joseph as the ruler, right? So they don't know, they don't have a clue as to who he is yet. He says, verse 7 again, when Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke harshly to them. Where do you come from, he asked. From the land of Canaan to buy food, they asked. Now let me make one correction. I said that the famine was all over the earth. I'm not clear of that. The famine might have been in the land of Canaan, but that land there, I do believe it was stretched all over the earth. All right. Verse 8, although Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Joseph remembered his dreams about them and said to them, you are spies. Now it's kind of interesting the contrast here. He remembered the dream, so now what? He's going to get them to bow. So that the first part of that will be they're going to bow to him. The second part is that because they're bowing to him now, not knowing who he is. But the second part, they will bow to him knowing who he is, but that's not yet revealed yet. We're going to see that later on. After Jacob dies, they're going to go, ooh, we're in trouble now. But anyway, we'll get to that when Jacob dies. Verse 9 again. Jacob remembered his dreams about them and said to them, you are spies, you have come to see the weakness of the land. No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food, they said. We are all sons of one man. We are honest. Your servants are not spies. Now, this statement here that they're honest, over 20 years, and keep this in mind, it's been 20 years since they have seen Joseph. Over 20 years. They have changed a lot. Remember, they were scoundrels. They have changed a lot. Remember, we even like when we saw with Esau. Esau was a worthless person, but he's changed over the years. We're not saying that they were altogether godly, but they certainly changed. So when they say they're honest, in a sense, they kind of are. They mellowed out over time, right? With age, they mellowed out. Verse 12, no, he says. Verse 11, we are all sons of one man. We are honest. Your servants are not spies. No, he said to them, you have come to see the weakness of the land. But they replied, no, we are servants. We're 12 brothers, the son of one man in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now with our fathers, and the one is no longer living. Now, that's just an assumption that they kind of made, or they're trying to we don't know what happened to him. It is sort of a sore spot. We're going to see, by the way, this is kind of a sore spot to them. They know what they did to Joseph, and they know, and guilt is always it was always with them. We'll see that later. Well, actually, we're going to see that in just a moment. Verse 14. Then Joseph said to them, I have spoken. You are spies. This is how you will be tested. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Now, that's going to be a problem we're going to see later on, because Joseph is not going. He's clinging to Benjamin. Remember, he sent all of them away and said, "Let me keep Benjamin, because I don't want Benjamin to die." So even Joseph's greatest fear that he's going to have to learn to let go of Benjamin. Verse 16. Send one from among you to get your brother. The rest of you will be in prison. so that your words can be tested to see if they are true. If they are not, then as surely as Pharaoh lives, you are spies. So Joseph imprisoned them together for 3 days. Now, he's just testing them right here. I want to say one thing about the word test. Notice this. The word test means to prove. So when you see the word test used in other scriptures, such as when God did test Abraham, notice you see the same word here, that he's testing them. You claim that you have a younger brother. You claim you have a father. I'm going to test that, prove that. Okay, that's a sidebar right there. Verse 18, on the third day, Joseph said to them, I fear God, do this and you will live. If you are honest men, let one of you be confined to the guardhouse, while the rest of you go and take grain to relieve the hunger of your households. Bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words can be confirmed. Then you won't die. And they consented to this. Then they said to each other, obviously. Now remember, they kind of speak this out loud, which is kind of just, FYI, you never know, right? In our day, we would say, let's be quiet so that, let's be quiet so that, you never know if you got cameras and stuff, but they are assuming that Joseph is an Egyptian. He's speaking to them in an interpreter, but they don't realize, one, that it's Joseph, and that he clearly understands it. But listen, watch this, what they said right here. Then they said to one another, obviously we are being punished for what we did to our brother. We saw his deep distress when he pleaded with us, but we would not listen. This is why we are troubled. This is why trouble has come to us. Now this is amazing right here, because remember, 20 years has passed. That guilt has always been with them, that we did our brother wrong. And they did. Joseph has always remembered that guilt as well. Look at verse 22. But Reuben replied, didn't I tell you not to harm the boy? But you would not listen. Now we must account for his blood. Now, they seem to really assume he's dead, even though they sold him. I don't know why they would assume he was dead, since they sold him as a slave. They should just kind of assume he's a slave somewhere. Verse 23, they did not realize that Joseph understood them, since there was an interpreter between them. He turned away from them and wept. This is Joseph. Then he turned back and spoke to them. He took Simeon from them and had him bound before their eyes. And Joseph then gave orders to fill their containers with grain and return each man's money to his sack and give them provisions for their journey. This order was carried out. They loaded the grain on their donkeys and left there. Now at the place where they lodged for the night, one of them opened his sack to get feed for his donkey, and he saw his money there at the top of the bag. And he said to his brother, my money has been returned. It is here in my bag. Their hearts sank. Joseph was really messing with them, right? Trembling, they turned to one another and said, what is this that God has done for us? Now, great question, because they don't realize God is actually doing you good. Verse 29, when they reached their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them. The man who was lord of the country spoke harshly to us and accused us of spying on the country. They're like, we don't even know why. He just kind of snapped on us, right? Verse 1, but we told him, we are honest men, not spies. We were 12 brothers, sons of the same father. One is no longer living, and the younger is now with our father in the land of Canaan. Now, here's the interesting thing. They might have, out of guilt, right? They might have just kind of convinced themselves that Joseph is dead. Verse 33, the man who was the lord of the country said to us, this is how I will know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me and take food to relieve the hunger of your household and go. Bring back your youngest brother to me, and I'll and I will know that you are not spies but honest men. I will then give your brother back to you, and you can trade in the country. Means, right? As they began emptying their sacks, there in each man's sack was his bag of money. When they and their father saw the bags of money, they were afraid. Their father Jacob said to them, "You have deprived me of my sons. Joseph is gone, and Simeon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin. Everything happens to me, right?" Joseph just kind of like, he just snaps, right? Everything happens to me. Then Reuben said to his father, "You can kill my two sons if I don't bring him back to you. Put him in my care, and I will return him to you." Now, he doesn't really trust Reuben at all. And remember, Reuben had some really bad taste in Joseph's eyes. He slept with his slave. Verse 38. But Jacob answered, "My son will not go down with you, for his brothers is dead, and he alone is left." Now, he did have other brothers, though. You kind of get to feel how Joseph is feeling about the other 10 sons, too. Notice, "My son will not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If anything happens to him on your journey, you will bring my gray hairs down to Sheol." Now, Sheol means the grave, "in sorrow." Now, this is kind of, again, you can kind of see the family dynamics. Anytime you go outside of God's plan, problems happen here. And one of the things that's kind of interesting about this, why would he be alone? For example, he has 10 brothers. Well, now 9. I mean, in Joseph's mind, he has 9 because he's really just going to leave Simeon there in jail. And he kind of goes on. He's like, "No, Benjamin cannot go down with you. He cannot go down. Nope, nope, nope." All right, so I'm gonna go to chapter 43, and let me let me go to chapter 43. Let me bring it back up, and then I'm gonna come back up. It did go a lot further. Okay, I'm gonna start 43. All right. Verse 43. Now the famine. Here we go. Now the famine in the land was severe, and when they had used up the grain they had brought back from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go back and buy us some food." Right? So Joseph is having a senior moment, right? "Go back and buy some food." And they had to say, but Judah said to them, "The man specifically warned us, you will not see me again unless your brother is with you. If you will not send our brother with us, we will not go down to buy food. But if you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy food. But if you will not send him, we will not go. For the man said to us, you will not see me again unless your brother is with you." We won't go. Ain't no sense in going. Now, in one respect, Joseph is probably seeing if they will come back. Have they changed? Are they going to leave Simeon in jail? Then he says, "Why did you cause me such trouble?" Israel asked. "Why did you tell the man that you had another brother? Why did you even say that?" Right? Like, come on. Verse 7. They answered, The man kept asking us about our families. "Your father's still alive. Do you have another brother?" And we answered him accordingly. How could we know that he would say, "Bring your brother with here," right? Then Judah said to his father Israel, "Send the boy with me." Now, I want to make a contrast between Reuben's plan and Judah's. Now, Judah, you can look at this as a foreshadowing. Through his offspring, Jesus would come. But I want you to compare the two. Then Judah said to his father Israel, "Send the boy with me. We will be on our way so that we may live and not die, neither we nor you nor our children. I will be responsible for him. You can hold me responsible, personally accountable. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, I will be guilty forever. Now I want you to notice that Reuben says, kill my two sons. Okay? But Judah's like, I will be. Verse 10, if we had not wasted time, we could have come back twice by now. So there, a little time has kind of gone by. And best I forget, Simeon is in jail. Then their father Israel said to them, if it must be so, then do this. Put some of the best products of the land in your packs and take them down to the man as a gift. Some balsam, honey, aromatic gum and resin, pistachio and almonds. Take twice as much money with you. Return the money that was returned to you in the top of your bag. Perhaps it was a mistake. Take your brother also and go back at once to them. May God Almighty cause the man to be merciful to you, so that he will release your brother and Benjamin to you. As for me, if I am deprived of my sons, then I am deprived. Now, this is kind of amazing because, of course, what they don't know is that God has already answered their prayer. He's already answered their prayer. All right, guys, look, I'm going to pick it up here. I'll pick it up here. No, you know what? I'm going to go on and finish. I don't know here because I'm out of time here. Who? All right, I'm gonna stop here, guys. I am going to stop here, and then I'm gonna pick it up with here. This is a little longer than I thought, and then I'm way over as it is. So I'll pick it up with this next time. All right. See you in the next study.